drive here. It's just a stock 325 with some B30 add-ons, but no lights on the dash, 232,000 miles, original motor, and I think it'll be a good example showing a high mile B25 being boosted. I got the car on jack stands. This is probably where it's gonna live for a month or two, hopefully just a month. And I mean, it's pretty rough. I mean, that bumper has some fitment issues there. It looks like it popped out. That's still better fitment than you guys running eBay Rep M3 bumpers though, I can tell you that. And that trim piece is broken. Next is the exhaust leak. That's where that was coming from. I didn't even know this was like that. So at least, you know, it'll make it a little easier to get this exhaust off since the bolts are already trying to come off on their own. Cats are off. I'm actually going to cut them and see if there's anything left in these things. You sell your cats and then you buy a turbo manifold and then you get a free turbo manifold. This is the turbo manifold I will be using. It's a Spall turbo manifold. I got it off of bracingtuning.com, and this actually is a great deal because it's actually cheaper, a little cheaper than the CX Racing turbo manifold, and this will actually last. So like, you're going to install it once, you're probably not going to have any issues from the manifold itself. They are a little shorter than the OE M54 studs, but they're way easier to install. All you gotta do is grab you a little ratchet here, put it on them, and just run them in. And there's plenty of threads there, so if you do what I'm doing here, I said do, but if you do what I'm doing here, you can just leave them out just a little bit before they bottom out. That way you have no issue getting the nut to fully engage, but that is totally up to you guys. That's just how I do it. I got the turbo manifold on and it fit great. Of course, a lot of the studs were an absolute pain to get on, but that's any manifold. Here's the bottom view of the manifold, and there's all the new studs and nuts. I have the turbo mocked up in there just so I can get an idea on my drain. And as you can see, everything fits great. It's almost like factory in there. So I dropped the subframe on this thing and the oil pan pretty well just removed itself. I never had one this easy before. So the oil pan just kind of fell out. You do have to remove your power steering pump. The oil pan is off, and if you're an E46 owner, you're probably used to seeing stuff like this in your pan. I'm gonna get this thing cleaned up. As you can see, it is terrible. I'm just gonna use brake cleaner and water. This side's fine actually. Just some brake cleaner and water because I don't have a blaster or anything nice. Maybe someday. Oil pan pretty clean, at least I can touch it now. This is about where you end up. It's about an inch from the lip down. And I probably won't actually drill such a huge hole to stick this whole thing through. I'm probably going to just grind down this to the angle that I want and then weld it that way. You can do it however you want, but that's how I'm about to do it. So I don't have to make the hole as big. I'm just gonna match the hole as the inside of this. I got it welded on at about the angle I want. I am not very good at TIG, so I'm gonna have to check and make sure this actually holds at least water before I go any further. All right, so I got it mocked up for right now. I got the pan on and everything. And for the mock-up, I'm just using a 3/4 inch hose so they slip on both fittings. I'm happy with that. Shouldn't have any issues. People that have issues are people that go too low down here where the oils want to go up the line, or they have, you know, a 45 or AN fittings which drop them down here by the time they start to bend, so they're too low. You want to start your drop as far up as you can because you don't have much room here. So just like this. But I'm going to go ahead and heat this housing up and get the housing really hot and then weld it together. And welded the V-band flange on for the wastegate, and I'm really happy how everything turned out, especially because my fab skills are not really the best, but this is definitely going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and mount it up on the car. This wastegate's beautiful. Got the wastegate mounted and just the exhaust housing of the turbo, just mocking it up to see how it fits, and it will work. We're gonna cut off this entire shiny piece here and leave this lip right here to weld to. All right, so I got it cut off, pretty clean cut. All I need to do now is clean up the housing some and get that 90. I'll go ahead and show you guys that 90 first. All right, so here's the 90. It's a Vibrant 90. A lot of people use these. And this was actually a 2-inch nipple that I cut off this turbo. So another benefit to this, other than just being able to clear your subframe, is this will get you up to a 2.5, depending on what turbo you're using. Some GT35s, yes, they are already 2.5. As you can see, you need to shorten the 90 just a little bit because it will hit the subframe, but that's no big deal. And then once you shorten that 90, there's this coupling right here. This is on V Racing's website also. It's awesome. That way you can just go right above the subframe. So I welded the 90 on there so that it should clear the subframe now. I'm gonna go ahead and mount it up and start to actually get serious about mounting the turbo for the last time, hopefully. And as long as this clears the subframe with the coupling on it, it's go time. Have it all mocked up and our coupling is coming right above the subframe like we wanted. And you're gonna see how fast this gets all cluttered under here. You can see how close this fitting is to that 90, but I can still get a hose on it, so I'm good there. I have the turbo clocked at a 45, not quite a complete 45, but enough to get this angled towards the pan so we get our drain right. And then I have 2 coolant lines on here. Here's a better view at this hose here. The tripod didn't really pick up all this when I had the phone sitting on it, but as you can see, it's dropping straight down into the pan. So this is what you want. Here you go, guys. You can put this BMW coolant rain shower on repeat and sleep to it tonight. The cooling system together for the turbo. I'm just missing some hose clamps, but everything worked out. So this side here runs to the block, as you can see up there, and then this side here runs up to the actual lower coolant hose. But you want to replace your banjo bolt for your Vanos with this fancy one here from Rally Road with the Rally Road bottom mount setup. Oil feed line for your turbo. There's 2 of them. One is for top mount, one is for bottom mount. You do want to get the correct one because one is longer than the other one. Yes, I know it's super simple, but you want to get the bottom mount oil feed line because it's longer. That way you can just go straight under the manifold back here. Top mounts go up here above the valve cover and crap and look like crap. And there's this little clip here. You can use it if you want, or you can use zip tie. I just found that clip today and it's awesome. And then the reason you use that fitting that I showed you guys when I installed the turbo, I'm not even sure what video that's in at this point, is because you can just use this 90 and you can literally install this from the top up here. It's awesome. Because if you use a straight fitting, you can't get the 90 on there and everything because the manifold's in the way. So this will be awesome. Once I put the cowl on there, it'll block all of that. And I'll probably run a zip tie somewhere. But yeah, that turned out super clean. I know this car isn't super clean, but at least that is too. Mechanic. All right, I've came to the conclusion that you do have to just throw this in trash and run the proper one on the other side of the radiator. That's really gonna go over budget. You want to cut off these lower studs or they're just gonna jam into your intercooler. I guess it really depends on what mounts you're using for your intercooler. It may place it far enough out where they won't hit these, but most of the time you do have to cut these lower ones off at least. That fit pretty good and went really smooth. I just made the 2 brackets for it. I painted both of them, whatever. Yeah, those stock bolts are kind of crusty, but this isn't a show car. It's just meant to go fast. You want to start off with a 90, and I went into a 90 aluminum, bend into another 90 coupling, and then here is my Misc MAF, and then I have a little 45 here, and then here's once again that 90 I made at the throttle body with the ICV fitting. So that is the complete cold side. Okay, so I plugged the harness in and it fits perfect. It takes 2 seconds to install it. Just plugs in here, and then this is your factory plug here. I have it underneath the pipe here, just out of the way, kind of tucked, and plugs right into the factory plug. And then it has a ground on it, which is made to reach right here. It's really convenient and easy to use, or you can find a different lug somewhere else or use a bolt somewhere else. It's totally up to you. I got the injectors in and they fit perfect. That's everything. It's together. As you can see, it fits in here just like a stock pump would. And for this hose, I would recommend a 12-inch hose, not an 8.5. That's what I used. And it's a little tight of a loop. So at 12-inch, you could do a good loop and have plenty extra, no big deal, it won't hurt anything. And you want to make sure your filter is touching the bottom so you don't have starvation issues at like half a tank. I figured I'd get this on camera so everyone could cringe. Safety third though. Where's my helmet? I can't let the subscribers get mad at my safety.
Safety third.
That didn't take very long, but it turned out just how I imagined. So that's nice. Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and weld these on. I got those welded on. Everything on the exhaust is completely welded now, and I'm gonna go ahead and install it. All right, the exhaust is done. I'm extremely happy how this turned out, mainly because my fab skills are not that great, but sometimes it works out, I guess. Everything looks great. This is where my lambda sensor would go. This is my wideband sensor. Obviously we got the flex pipe here, and then our wide pipe going into our MagnaFlow exhaust. A few little things that I could button up, but I can go ahead and do the first start on it. So right now I am putting a flash on it that B Racing just sent me using his flasher. Once I put this tune on here, I'm gonna go ahead and try to start it, and hopefully everything goes well. Let's check under to make sure we're not leaking everywhere. It's running pretty good. I actually have to wire up the AFR sensor yet before I actually drive the car. Here's the engine bay. Other than the air filter being on the wrong side of the engine, it looks pretty stock, and that's also why I went bottom mount. It's kind of OEM plus, but over here you can kind of see the intercooler piping. I don't really care. I'm not going to go any crazier than this. I've seen people put a stock air box over the top of the intercooler piping and cut the bottom out, but I'm not going to do that. I don't know if I should really launch it, because the clutch and stuff, I'm not gonna fully launch it here. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's only on a 10-pound spring, so I do plan on going up a little bit, and I could go even more if I went 85. And the flutter sounds great. Even just cruising, it just sounds great. Put the window up, wind noise. Oh yeah, it just keeps on pulling too.